It all starts with the main character Ken Kaneki and his friend Hito sitting in Antiku's cafe. Kaneki tells him that he wants to ask a girl named Rise, who has just entered the cafe, on a date. Hito decides to leave so as not to disturb Kaneki, who hesitates to act and instead starts reading the book. Looking at Rise, he notices she has the same one. Then he decides to go up to her and ask her out on a date at the bookstore. During the date, it turns out that they have a lot in common and that they both admire the work of the same authors. Already in the evening, she asks to be escorted home because she is afraid of ghouls who attack and eat people and who have recently been in her area. Together, they turn into an alley where she transforms into a ghoul and attacks the guy. Rise mortally wounds him, after which she was already ready to finish him off. But at that moment, construction debris falls on her and destroys her. Kaneki wakes up in the hospital, where the doctors transplanted Rize's organs into him to save him. After that, he notices that the food they brought him just tastes disgusting. But doctors say that this is just a temporary consequence after the operation. Arriving home, Kaneki finds a gift from Hito, who brought him his favorite food. In the evening, he learns on TV that ghouls cannot eat human food and that they only eat people. Kaneki begins to think that he is a ghoul and decides to check it out by tasting the food brought to him. His theory is confirmed and the guy begins to hunger, and his right eye turns red, just like a ghoul. Realizing what he has become, Kaneki tries to destroy himself with a knife, but it just breaks on the skin. Going out into the street, Kaneki smelled a delicious smell, but its source turns out to be a human corpse, which is already being eaten by one of Kazuo's ghouls. He shares the booty with Kaneki, but is destroyed by Nishiki's ghoul, who then attacks Kaneki because he came to someone else's territory, and for this he can be destroyed. But at the last moment, they are separated by Toka, an employee of the Antiku cafe. She says that after Rize's departure to another world, this territory becomes the property of the cafe, after which she drives Nishiki away. She then offers Kaneki the remains of a human, after which she realizes that he is the guy that Rize wanted to eat. Kaneki is very hungry, but he does not want to eat people, because then he will no longer consider himself a man. Yoshimura comes to them, who notices the poor condition of the guy and invites him to a coffee shop, saying that ghouls should help their fellows. He pours Kaneki a cup of coffee and says that it's the only food ghouls can still drink that will slightly reduce their hunger. At the end, Yoshimura hands Kaneki a package of meat and says that he is ready to help him if necessary. That night, Kaneki again begins to have a strong hunger, during which he imagines Rise, tempting him to eat meat, but he never did. The next day, Kaneki arrives at his university, where he finally meets Hito, who introduces him to his new friend, an undergrad Nishiki. It was he who almost destroyed Kaneki yesterday. Hito came to him for a disc that Nishiki forgot, so he offers to go to his house. While walking towards the house, Kaneki notices that Nishiki is very good at impersonating a human, and even as a ghoul, he is able to eat human food to disguise himself. After reaching a dark place, Nishiki kicks Hito to the side, knocking him out. Then he attacks Kaneki, punching a hole in his stomach. He then began to mock the unconscious Hito and said that people are just food for ghouls. Nishiki was about to destroy Hito, but at the last moment, Kaneki uses a special Kagun organ of the ghouls, with which he severely injures him. When one danger was eliminated, another appeared, Kaneki's hunger, during which Rise convinces him to eat Hito. But at the last moment, Toka appears and gives him a moral, and then knocks him out. Kaneki wakes up in Yoshimura's coffee shop. There he learns that everything is fine with his friend, but he himself had to be fed. Kaneki gets hysterical because he almost destroyed his best friend. But Yoshimura says that ghouls are actually not as bloodthirsty as he thinks, and Kaneki needs to get to know them better. Yoshimura teaches Kaneki how to make coffee, revealing that this coffee shop is a place where ghouls from District 20 meet, and its main purpose is to provide food for ghouls who cannot hunt. Meanwhile, Hito came to his senses and visited Kaneki with Toku, who, according to legend, saved them both from an accident. When he left, Toka warns that if he guesses everything, he will have to be destroyed. Meanwhile, Yoshimura asks Kaneki to replace Toka by preparing food. He, along with Yoma, goes to a place where people destroy themselves. There, Kaneki realizes that the ghouls in Antiku mostly only eat their meat. Meanwhile, the anti-ghoul office assigns Kori Yamato and his student Amono to patrol the 20th district. They are looking for the ghoul Yamori, who fought Rise in the past. The next day, news reached Yoshimura about the hunters, whom the ghouls call pigeons, and therefore Kaneki must acquire a makeup mask. This mask is needed in order to hide your face in front of the hunters. After that, Fuiguchi enters the cafe with his daughter, Hinami, who is staying in the living room on the second floor. Kaneki decides to visit Hinami, and thanks to her, he realizes that she behaves exactly like normal people. This meeting convinced Kaneki that not all ghouls are bloodthirsty exterminators. Then Tsukiyama comes to the cafe, who takes a liking to Kaneki, and so he decides to visit him at the university, saying that he really wanted to meet him, after which he invites him to the cafe. In the evening of the same day, Yomo asks Kaneki to go down to the basement, where he begins to prepare him for a fight with the hunters. There, Kaneki loses, but has been training every day since then. Afterwards, Yomo calls him to a bar run by Tori. She knows that Kaneki is half ghoul, half human, meaning she is a half-breed. And Tori says that such half-breeds are still sometimes born, and that they are much stronger than ordinary ghouls. Their important distinguishing feature is only one red eye, just like Kaneki. He takes the opportunity to ask about Rise, because it was because of her that he became who he is. And Tori says that she went to another world under a strange set of circumstances, because that night someone's silhouette was seen on the roof of the building. The next day, Kaneki heads to meet Tsukiyama, who invites him to visit a place that he said Riza really liked, but this turns out to be a trap. And in fact, Tsukiyama decided to arrange a feast for aristocratic ghouls, in which Kaneki should be the main dish. After all, he has a ghoul body that smells like a man. A Terra fighter is released on Kaneki, who must serve him as a dish. In addition, Kaneki drank the substance under the guise of coffee, and due to its action, Terra was able to catch it. Despite this, Kaneki was able to use his power and knock Terra back with a single punch, who was then destroyed by Tsukiyama because he changed his mind about sharing the one-eyed ghoul with the others and instead wants to eat it himself. Kaneki wakes up in his bed and, going outside, stumbles upon two ghouls who attack Nishiki. Kaneki saves Nishiki and helps him get home. There, he learns that Nishiki is dating a girl named Kimi, who is an ordinary person. She knows who he is, but still stays with him. On her way home at night, she is attacked by Tsukiyama and leaves a note for Kaneki to invite her to dinner. A little later, Nishiki comes to him, who, even being barely alive, is ready to go and save his girlfriend. Arriving at the place, Tsukiyama, like a real psycho, tells them that he wants to eat Kaneki while he eats Kimi. After these words, Tsukiyama attacks Nishiki and knocks him out, and then starts attacking Kaneki. Toka comes to their aid and injures Tsukiyama's face. Now she and Kaneki fight him, but he is stronger and hurts the guy's stomach. After tasting his red liquid, Tsukiyama fills up and catches a real buzz, after which he is going to put his plan to feed Kimi Kaneki into action. But at the last moment, he finds a scar on Kimi's body. Nishiki left him a couple of days ago, after he was injured, and Kimi herself offered him her flesh. At this moment, Nishiki himself remembers his whole life, including the act of his girlfriend. He rushes at Tsukiyama, but can't do anything to him. Kaneki then allows Toka to eat some of her flesh, which causes her to fight Tsukiyama with her Kagun. Realizing that he can't win just like that, Tsukiyama is going to eat Kimi, but he is distracted by Nishiki, which Toka takes advantage of and finally finishes off the gourmet. Nishiki goes to Kimi, about to untie her, but this is prevented by Toka. She can't let a man live who knows who the ghoul is. Nishiki protects the girl with himself, and then Kimi says that she has a beautiful Kagun. These words turned out to be significant for Toki, and she escapes, leaving the girl whole. And then Nishiki got a job at the Antiku coffee shop because for the sake of Kimi, he should not destroy people. Meanwhile, Hinami tells Fuiguchi that she wants to see her father. And she tells Kaneki that her husband used to do dangerous work in the 13th district, but when Hinami was born, he left everything and took care of the family. Unfortunately, at the moment her husband was fulfilling an order for Yamori, who, after receiving the weapon, attacked him and threw him out into the street, where the pigeon's maid and Amon were already waiting for them. They attack Yamori, but the ghoul was much stronger than them, and therefore was able to easily escape, breaking the hunter's tools. When the police arrive, Maid decides to use Fuiguchi's husband's body and their daughter's drawings to capture the rest of the family. The plan works, and the pigeons manage to lure Hinami and her mother into a trap. Fuiguchi, sacrificing himself, helps Hinami escape, and Maid shows her what has become of her husband. The anti-ghoul office created a weapon from his body, which he uses to destroy Fuiguchi right in front of Kaneki, who has just come to the rescue. Immediately after that, he tells all Antiku's workers about what happened. The story was very shocking to Toka, who wanted to destroy all the hunters. But such an act would only bring even more hunters to the 20th district. Kaneki begins to blame himself, because if he had been stronger and intervened, he could have saved Fuiguchi. In the evening, Toka is still going to take revenge on the hunters, wearing a rabbit mask for cover. Then she began to pursue Ammon and his people. Ammon was without a weapon, and therefore his destruction should not have been a problem. But Mata arrived in time to help him, who, having wounded her, was able to fight her off. Kaneki is very attached to Toka, and therefore wants to help her. She takes him to the makeup artist who has finally finished his mask. This means that Kaneki can now fight with hunters. Mata figured out how to catch Hinami. He will lure her with the smell of her mother to the drainage system, where he will deal with her. And in order to increase the chance of capture, he and Ammon are separated. Hinami escapes Antiku and heads for the sewer to smell her mother. This is noticed by Kaneki and Toka, who start looking for her. There, Hinami finds a bag containing her mother's body parts, causing her to start screaming. Then the ghouls with the hunters ran to her. Toka starts fighting Mata. As a result of the battle, she found the weak point of his new weapon, after which she threw the hunter into the wall. She was about to destroy him, but he uses a second weapon made from Fuiguchi's kagune. With it, he immobilized Toka and then Hinami. Meanwhile, Kaneki is fighting Ammon outside. However, he loses to the hunter. Before destroying Kaneki, Ammon says that ghouls cannot understand what loneliness and loss of loved ones are. Then Kaneki realizes that he is a ghoul and a man, and therefore tells Ammon that both people and ghouls just need to get to know each other better. But the hunter is not going to listen to him, thus leaving Kaneki no choice but to release his side of the ghoul. But even in this state, he does not want to destroy it and simply asks Ammon to run away. Meanwhile, Mata was already ready to destroy the ghouls, but Hinami awakens her kagune, which is a combination of her parents' kagune. With his help, she saves Toka and deprives Mad of her leg, saying that she does not want revenge, but only wants to be with her parents. The hunter decided to take the opportunity and destroy the girl, but this was prevented by Toka, who finally finished him off. After finding his head's body, Ammon remembers his past when he was assigned as Mud's assistant, and remembers the incident with the ghoul hunt. Mata hunts for an apple-headed ghoul and believes that it is 68-year-old Lady Muromatsu, and he made such a conclusion, guided by his intuition, which is not enough to convince Ammon. He believes that his head is wrong, and therefore, not seeing her as a threat, he decides to help his grandmother by dragging her bag. Upon reaching a dark alley, he notices a red liquid dripping from the bag, and Muromatsu attacks him. She was able to break his weapon and was about to destroy it, but he was saved by Mata. More than a month has passed since his death, and Hinami lives with Toka. Kaneki tells Tori about what happened that night. He says that Rise seems to have taken over his body, so he wants to know more about her. And Tori says that Rise appeared out of nowhere, and little is known about her in general. So she invites him to visit the 11th district in which she used to live in order to sort things out for herself. The next day, the news says that the anti-ghoul office will increase the number of hunters in districts 11 and 20. It is also reported that ghouls attacked the branch in the 11th district, taking the area for themselves. They were attacked by the Aogiri tree, which has over 200 ghouls. This means that most lone ghouls will want to join the tree, and so a war is coming between ghouls and humans. Therefore, Ammon with almost all the hunters was ordered to go to the 11th district. A day later, Yoshimura and Yomo find a group of hunters who were destroyed by ghouls from the Aogiri tree. At this time, Banjo from the 11th district came to Antiku, who needed to meet with the head of the institution, but he was not there, so he asks Kaneki and Toka about Rise. Kaneki says that Rise is not here and that there is nothing he can do to help. Then Banjo asks Kaneki to tell her to run when the opportunity arises. A couple of months ago, a gang of Aogiri ghouls started driving other ghouls out of District 11 and killing hunters. And also it is not known why, but they are looking for Rise. In addition, he warns that they are all better off leaving District 20. But without having time to finish, he is attacked by a member of the Aogiri tree, Ayada, who is the brother of Toki. Right after that, Yamori, who had been following Banju, enters the cafe. He smelled Rise's scent in Kaneki and decided to take him with him after beating him. Toka stood up for him. Habayado attacked her, rendering her harmless. Yamori continues to savagely attack Kaneki, as he has noticed that he cannot be easily destroyed. But in the end, he just leaves. In the evening, Yoshimura and Yoma return to the cafe, and having seen what happened, they are going to act. At the meeting, Yoshimura initially offers to put up with the fact that they won't see Kaneki again. After all, going against the Aogiri tree is very stupid. Many of its members live for the fight and are serious contenders. And besides this, the headquarters of the anti-ghoul office will most likely send reinforcements to the 11th district, because of which they also risk falling into the hands of hunters. However, Toka, Nishiki, and Hinami are willing to risk their lives. Seeing this, Yoshimura supports them, and together with Yoma is going to help. And also Tsukiyama is called to help, who still survived. Their plan is to use the headquarters attack as a cover to infiltrate the area. Kaneki woke up in a huge room, chained to a chair where Yamori was with him. He injects a special substance into Kaneki's body that blocks the Kagoon and also makes the body vulnerable, and then starts torturing him. He does this simply because torture gives him pleasure. Upon leaving the room, Yamori orders his subordinate to clean up, and this subordinate turns out to be Banjo, who promises to get Kaneki out of here. At this time, detachments of hunters are ready to attack the area. In the car, Ammon studies Yamori's file and learns from ghoul investigator Shinohara that in the past he was handled by an investigator who liked to carry out brutal torture. Due to constant torture, a new personality developed in Yamori, thanks to which he became what he is and acquired the same frenzied desire to torture others. The assault begins, and Suzu helps the hunters to break through, who single-handedly destroys many gold shooters that prevented the main force from passing. Entering the building, Ammon rushes Toka with a rabbit mask and remembers how she attacked him in the past. She also blames her for the death of her mentor, which is why she rushes at her. But thanks to the attack of other ghouls, Toka was able to escape from him. Ammon, meanwhile, was able to deal with the ghouls who attacked him and returned to duty. But a new threat arose before them, the ghoul One-Eyed Owl, to fight which only veterans were left, because if they cannot destroy it, then no one can. During the torture, Yamori makes Kaneki count down from 1,000 to 7. This was necessary so that he would not go crazy and pass out prematurely. Between the tortures, Kaneki begins to see Rise and his past with his mother, temporarily immersed in warm memories. But they are interrupted by the torture that has begun again. During the torture, Yamori reveals that Kaneki has unusually strong regeneration, and then reveals his secret that Kaneki is an experiment by Akihira Kane, the doctor who transplanted Rise's organs into him. During another break, Kaneki sees her in his head, where she challenges his beliefs that it is better to suffer yourself than to hurt others. He adopted these beliefs from his mother. As a result, Kaneki changed, saying that he is now ready to destroy anyone who wants to destroy him, and that he is going to surpass Rise in strength. At the end, he says that it is not he who is wrong, but the whole world, after which he begins to eat Rise. As a result, his hair turned white, representing his inner change, and he recognizes himself as a ghoul. Yamori, having finally played enough with Kaneki, is going to eat him in order to gain new strength to defeat the hunters. But before getting hit, Kaneki manages to break the chains and free himself, and a fight breaks out between the ghouls. But no matter how hard Yamori tried, he could not hurt Kaneki, who in turn dealt with the psycho without any problems, and then asks him how much 1,000 minus 7 will be. If you want to continue, then write about it in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and press the bell so as not to miss new videos. AniMap was with you. Bye everyone.